Hello everybody and welcome to WhatCulture Gaming with me, Ash, and I'm joined today by Benji.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
Good, and we're here with some news about super old retro consoles that may or may not exist, but we'll get into that later.
Well, it definitely exists. We'll get on to that, yeah.
Which is
we'll have a little fight on it.
It's the Nintendo PlayStation, which you may have seen has cropped up again because it's going to auction for over £1 million. It's the rarest console to exist, it's the most expensive console to exist, and it's basically born from this age-old era where Nintendo and Sony had a whole thing going on and then it didn't happen.
We were very, very briefly friends and we had a very bitter falling out. We'll get into that in a moment as well. So yeah, basically, if you've ever wanted to spend the gross domestic product of a mid-level European nation on a video game console, now is your chance.
Yes.
The owner of this artifact, this historical artifact, is called Terry Diebold, who sounds like a Hideo Kojima character, quite frankly. But he's been touring this around the conventions of the last few years, and he says he can no longer afford to do that, it's not sustainable, so he's putting it up for sale. He recently had an offer, I think it was $1.2 million.
Yeah, from Norway.
He turned down, despite being quite hard on his luck apparently, and he's now listed it on Heritage Auctions.
Yes.
With a starting bid of around the same. Now Heritage Auctions, if you're not aware, they've auctioned off many pieces of video game history before. I think they had the Stadium Sports NES game, I think it was,
I've got a nice little list of them here. Basically, their most expensive ones, if you want a nice little rundown of how well this could go for good old Terry Diebold.
Well, he's asking a lot.
He's asking a lot, but they've managed to sell NES games they've got a sealed NES The Legend of Zelda for £15,000.
Right, a sealed Mega Man as well.
Yeah.
Something £35,000.
Mega Man went for 57.
Oh, that's
Donkey Kong 3 went for 33. And they did a record-breaking $100,000 for Super Mario Bros. NES as well. So they've ordered all sorts. Stadium Events has been on eBay for over 40 grand. The NES Nintendo World Championship is the most expensive NES game to ever exist, and the gold one, and that sold for over $100,000.
And also, just for a bit of context here, the highest price ever paid for a console to this date was there's a gold Wii.
Yes.
That was $433,000.
Oh my god, yeah, the gold Wii. Well, the gold Wii is it's a beautiful, beautiful creation.
The Wii Supreme, I think it was 22 karat gold, something like 76 encrusted diamonds.
Yeah.
Basically, tat.
Yeah.
But
very
that
beautiful.
You can get for $500,000, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's expecting to fetch over twice that.
Yeah.
And there's a very good reason why he's expecting this to be so valuable. So if you don't know the story behind this console, I'll briefly run it down. So back in the late 80s, Ken Kutaragi, who you may know as the father of PlayStation, was watching his daughter play on a Famicom.
Yep.
And he thought, this is great, I love this. I'd like to be doing something like this. He was working at Sony at the time, who were mostly doing televisions and hi-fis and stereo systems. So he got in touch with Nintendo and he started covertly developing a sound chip for their next console.
It's like a stealth operation, wasn't it, his chip?
Yes, so if you love the sampled sound in the SNES of Super Famicom, the SBC 700 I think it's called, he was responsible for that, he did that. But he did have to do it secretly because Sony had no interest in doing games at the time. But he found a supporter in their chairman, Norio Oga, who said, actually, yeah, I love this, just do it anyway.
Yeah, go on.
So he just went and did it anyway.
Yeah.
So after the success of that, they made a little agreement with Nintendo and said, right, we're going to develop a CD-based add-on for the SNES, or the Super Famicom. But there was a sticking point. Because Sony owned the format, I think it was called the Super CD format, basically that would give him a lot of power over the licensing agreements, which, if you know your video game history, you'll know that Nintendo really, really hammered down on having full control of all the software in the consoles after the crash in the early 80s. And that's what made them so successful. So the idea that they would lose some of that control, cede some of that control to what had been basically a rival promotion as well.
Sony wanted loads of money from it though, didn't they?
Yeah,
the way that they arranged it was to just be profit heavy because they weren't arriving at that point.
They're pretty smart as well, they knew what they were doing. But also pretty smart was Nintendo's Hiroshi Yamauchi, one of the dragons of the game industry. Basically, he got on the phone to Howard Lincoln and Minoru Arakawa at Nintendo America and said, this is unpalatable. Go to Europe, talk to some other people, see if we can do a similar thing with a company that's going to be less, demanding.
Yeah.
So
you can absolutely screw over in the process.
Yeah, so what happened is at the Computer Electronics Trade Show in 1990, possibly 91, Sony revealed this new add-on, this PlayStation as it was, And then the very next day, Nintendo announced, oh, we've done a deal with Philips, the European
Good old Philips.
manufacturer. Yeah.
Love Philips.
Now, you might not be surprised to learn that Sony weren't too pleased with this. But you could have told us, for one, where does this leave this project? Well, where it left it in tatters, it left it in flames. It ended there. They went in the wrong direction. And they developed their own console. You might have heard of it, called the PlayStation.
What's that one?
The PlayStation.
I don't think
it's quite rare. Came out in 1994. Check it out. It's got some good games.
Yeah, good little one, that one.
Cool Borders is a good game. Overboard, a game about pirates. That's also good. Nintendo.
Just like sending yourself again into the story mode.
Yeah, Nintendo continued the partnership with Philips, but unfortunately, no console ever came out. Philips released their own console called the CDI.
Oh, they did. And they released some games for it, which was Link the Faces of Evil, Zelda the Wand of Gamelon, Zelda's Adventure, and Hotel Mario, which are all a load of crap.
They're basically widely considered the worst examples of each franchise, which are, pretty stellar franchise as well. They have no right existing. So I think it's fair to say Nintendo possibly dropped the ball a bit on this deal. If it stuck with Sony, for one, they would have had a super add-on for their SNES. They may not have had a rival that ultimately edged them out of the console market for the next 20 years. This poor fellow wouldn't be able to make $1.2 million.
Yeah. So. At least 1.2 million was his starting offer. He's going to make way more. But yeah, the implications of the thank you for that wonderful history lesson, by the way, games journalist, historian Benji for us.
Well, we should also mention Sony showed this prototype at the trade show. Apparently 200 were made. Yeah. Which is why this fella has come to own one, allegedly. Now,
I've got this big quote on how he actually came to own it, which was box of junk is the key word for it.
A box of junk was thrown out. So there was a chap called Olaf Olafsson who used to work for a company called Avant, who for some reason came into possession of one of his prototypes, and he just lobbed it out, and this Terry Terry man, whatever you want to call him.
Terry and Dan.
He obtained this during an auction, a company auction when Avanta went bankrupt, and then he just said, "Oh well, what is it? It's just junk. I'll put it in my basement."
Paid $75 for it.
$75.
His thing was, the company I worked for, Advanta Corporation, they filed for bankruptcy on November 8th, 2009. When they did that, we purged the buildings. What you do is take pictures, you itemize, and then they had an online auction. And I got into the auction myself because there were a few things I wanted to buy. So I knew that we were in certain lots. And when they called out a certain lot number, I raised my panel and I ended up winning it. And
just basically how an auction works. Yeah, that's what it's described there.
$75 is what he paid for this box.
Yeah, I mean,
he paid for actually something else, and they gave him loads of bonus boxes as well, which is why he ended up with box of junk. So he threw them all in his loft, kept them there for ages, and then his son realised what he had by looking at Reddit posts, found it, did a video of it, went viral, and then they started having it around conventions for the rest of the time.
I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on for a moment and say there's everything he's saying is nice, and yes, this story did happen, and yes, these prototypes were made.
Yeah.
And they did actually, courtesy, I should say, of a homebrew developer, did get this console working again.
Yeah.
That to me isn't necessarily evidence that it's an actual thing. It could just be a very, very elaborate and excellent hoax. 95%
but how do you
on
know?
the side of it. Well, I don't know for certain.
How do you know? Because you know
at the same time, if I tell you that the Atlanteans designed and developed my toaster,
they might.
And the evidence is that it cooks bread, you might say that's a bit flimsy.
I do.
Yeah.
I do say that's a bit flimsy.
I'm not saying this man is claiming the Atlanteans made this, by the way. I'm just saying there's a 5% chance it might be,
Yeah,
not for real McCoy.
The authenticity of the product has been questioned by many non-believers.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in some sort of Kafkaesque nightmare trying to just say, it might not be real.
Because there were so few of them made, we haven't actually had anything else to compare them to. So this is the only one.
That's the big issue, isn't it? And also, unfortunately, Hiroshi Machi, who would know, is no longer with us, passed away.
Yeah. But the only people who have actually had their hands on it is Engadget, who with Daniel Chung of Restart Workshop, who gave his quote of it, which is basically, I was very excited to touch it, which was definitely rare in the sense I got to confirm its existence and its controversy, because word on the street is that it doesn't exist. But today, I got to see the real deal, so I can't discredit it. And there's even an OS, you can't question it. That was his argument for it, is that it has an OS. But because there isn't any other versions of this to compare it to, and we have this one lasting testament of this time, of these things that we didn't even know that existed in real life up until now, because it's the only one, they kind of have all of their authenticity and profit based around that. But what else is there to compare it to?
Well, that's the thing, because I would like Ken Kutaragi to come out and say, oh, yep, I recognise that. Yep. But he hasn't so far. Even if it isn't the real thing, and like I said, there's 95% chance that it is. There's some of the stories, the test me maybe doesn't hold up to wider scrutiny, but who can say?
I don't know. I don't know. I think it's real. I want to believe.
Well, that's the thing.
Because
it's such a piece of well-loved video game apocrypha, and because he's developed a thing that resembles the thing that we know was supposed to exist, and it actually works, I still think it has inherent value in that regard.
Oh, but it's not an emulator. I don't know. It makes it sound like an emulator when you say it like that. But I think because we have nothing else to compare it to, and all of these retro experts and convention people have looked at it, and it's going through heritage auctions who are going to have to examine it and give the real deal.
Having looked at that listing, it does say it hasn't been vetted yet.
Well,
they could yet say, ooh,
they've got 2 months.
Probably, February 27th this goes on sale if you're saving up after Christmas. Might get a few gift vouchers, who knows?
For heritage auctions?
Yeah.
They've sold all sorts of stuff. But what do you think about this? Are you going to buy it? Do you have £1 million, dollars, whatever, lying around to spend on the Nintendo PlayStation? Because it is a little piece of gaming history that has been brought to the fore, and you could have it in your house if you've got the money.
Perhaps you're one of the few people like me denying the spherical nature of the Earth, completely paranoid, suggesting it might just be an elaborate piece of plastic. Please tell me, because nobody agrees with me on this point so far.
He's literally the only one in the office being like, it's not real. But what do you think?
It might not be real.
Okay, it might not be real. I'll continue my impression. But so let us know what you think about this below. Are you interested in buying it? Are you going to be keeping up with the auction? What do you think about it? Do you think it's real?
Tell us the most you've ever spent on a console.
Yes, because there's all sorts of interesting ones out there, all sorts of limited edition ones. If you found the Wii Supreme, that'd be nice to know as well. But let us know. Find us on social media at WhatCulture across all the platforms. You can find me at Ash Millman, and you can find Benji at...
you can complain to me at BAR3pud, if you so desire.
Perfect. And we'll see you again soon. So thank you for watching.